everyone, welcome back to the classes. How are you all? I hope you all are doing very well, very good. So it's just that student, we have just started our chapter that is the respiration in organisms. And today we are continuing with the same chapter because we left some of the topics, like only two topics are there which we have to cover up in today's class. And students, like if you remember that till now what we have studied in this chapter, have you watched that last three sessions? I hope you have watched that and you have cleared your doubts as well by posting your doubts on public or private forum of Ask IITians. Exactly. So, like if I tell you that we have just discussed about the respiration, that what's the process of respiration is, and we have already seen that what's the respiratory system and what organs are involved in respiratory system. And we have also seen this thing that not only human beings respire, but also animals and plants needs to respire to survive. Exactly. And what we have discussed about that okay, in human being there are lungs which helps for the respiration process. But if we talk about other animals, other type of organisms and plants, so we have seen that they use their special organs to breathe. Not exactly lungs, but they have different type of organs so that they can breathe. For example, fishes. So fishes are aquatic animals because they live in water, and for their respiration process, because they also need oxygen to survive, so they just get dissolved oxygen from the water, and they're having special organ that we called as gills. Exactly. So that's how, student, we have discussed all such things. And then if you remember that we have also discussed about the types of respiration, that when there is the presence or absence of oxygen, so we have discussed that okay, aerobic and anaerobic respiration is there. Then we have seen that okay, on the basis of the location, like where the respiration is taking place, we have discussed about this thing, that is of the three types. And it's just that what are these three types: internal, external, and cellular respiration. Exactly. So if I ask you one question now, that is, if you remember that we have discussed one very important question, that whether the respiration and breathing both are the same process, or it's just that there is some difference between them. So what's your answer? So you will say, ma'am, now I have just, like, I am having that much clarity about respiration and breathing, that even in my dreams, if you come and you ask me that what's the difference between the respiration and breathing, so I'll be giving you very correct answer. So exactly, student, because we have discussed this thing so many times. So we have seen that okay, respiration is a whole process in which you will see when we take like when there is the exchange of gases take place, gas travel to the different organs of our body, and then it absorbed by the blood, and that it's like cells absorb that oxygen, and the glucose will get breakdown and generate energy, and then we consume that energy for a different work, and then carbon dioxide get exhaled. So this whole process is respiration. But if we talk about breathing, so breathing is just that the exchange of gases, like oxygen is getting inhaled and the carbon dioxide is getting exhaled. So you'll say, ma'am, yes, now we know this thing, respiration is a whole process, but breathing is just a part of respiration, which is a very important part. Because if the breathing is not there, so how the whole respiration process is going to work? Exactly. So we have discussed all such thing in like till now. Now what we are going to study, so student, these are the topics which we are going to study today. First, we are going to discuss about cellular respiration. Then we'll see what are the disorders of respiration. Like you will say, mom, cellular respiration, that okay, we have some idea because we have already discussed about it. But what's the disorders of respiration? See, student, what the thing is that generally, like, have you ever noticed this thing, that some people suffering some different kind of problems because of the respiration? Like some people are having asthma problem, like generally, which you have like if I say that one of the most common things, so it's the asthma, that it is because that because people feel some problem in taking proper breathe, or it's just that proper respiration process is not there. So that is the disorder of respiration. That means the or disorders or the diseases or the problems which we face when we are not like having proper respiration process. So we are going to see such disorders as well. Fine, students. So now first of all, just starting with the cellular respiration, because now we are just going to start, and after that we are going to complete this chapter. And I hope this was the one of the interesting chapters. So yeah, we were discussing about cellular respiration. So yes, that discussing something about your body, I hope like it is a good thing, because we should know na, like what the whole process is going on inside us, because we can't see it through our eyes. So that's how we have seen the respiratory system, that how the organs are involved in it. So now student, if you remember that we have just discussed about the types of respiration as well. Now I'm not talking about presence or absence of oxygen, but right now I'm talking about the type of respiration which depends upon the location, like where exactly the respiration is taking place. So we have seen internal, external, and cellular. Internal respiration, student, it's just that the whole respiration process which is going inside your body, that is the internal. External, like the exchange of gases with the external environment, that we call as the external respiration. Now we are going to discuss about one special type of respiration, that is the cellular respiration. Okay. So students, in the cellular respiration, the same thing is that okay, oxygen is getting absorbed and the carbon dioxide is getting evolved, or not exactly absorbed and evolved, but I can say that it is inhalation and exhalation. Fine. But now where this respiration is taking place? So if you can notice that the word is given here, it is the cellular respiration. And I have already told you that this type of respiration takes place in, like, in cells, because cells are, a human body is just made up of cells. That cells are there, and when cells start dividing themselves, and that's how we get the whole structure of our body. Fine. Like if you can see, well, like if we can take one example, like whenever we are building any office, any school, or even to our houses, so what we do, that we require some different type of materials, but one of the material is very important for us, and what's that? That is the brick. Like if we don't use bricks, so how we are going to make the whole structure, whole building or office? So that's a student, we can say that yes, bricks are the repeating unit of that building, and if bricks are not there, so we can't find out the body of that office. So similarly students, cells are the building blocks of our body. Like our body is made up of cells. So you can see that everywhere there is cells, and that respiration which is taking place in the cells, that we called as the cellular respiration. Fine. Now the very important question comes here, that how the cells are getting oxygen. Because in cellular respiration students, what happened, the process by which organisms combine oxygen with foodstuff molecules, diverting the chemical energy in these substances into life sustaining activities and discarding as waste product carbon dioxide and water. So this is the definition of cellular respiration. That means like according to this definition, we can say that oxygen is there, and the food molecules are getting break down in the presence of oxygen, and they're releasing the carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Fine. But the main thing is here, that how the cells are getting that oxygen. So students, if you remember, then we like when we have discussed about the respiratory system, so in that what we have seen, that we have seen that how the gases are traveling and how they are traveling. So it's just that starting from the nasal cavity, like nasal cavity is there, from where you can see that the exchange of gases take place with the external environment. Like oxygen is in air, and then we inhale that air. Fine. That air contains some dust particles or some impurities, so that is just get filtered in our nasal cavities, and then the pure air gets inside our body, then it passes through the pharynx, then pharynx it goes to the windpipe, that windpipe we called as trachea. Exactly. Then trachea gets divided into two parts, that we called as the bronchies, and then bronchies are divided into further parts, like many branches, that we call as bronchioles, and all these bronchioles are present inside the lungs. Exactly students. And those bronchioles are attached with alveoli, and alveoli are also called as air sacs, like they contain air. Fine. And those alveoli are just covered with the network of blood capillaries. Okay. And you can see student, between alveoli and those blood capillaries there is the exchange of gases. Fine. And when student blood carries that oxygen, so that blood will travel through your whole body, and it transport oxygen to each and every cell, and that's how student cells getting, like cells absorbing the oxygen from the blood. So when those cells are getting oxygen, because food we have taken, okay, and that food convert into the glucose. Fine. Now that glucose, if you can see, this is the cell, like you can say that this is the reaction which is taking place inside the cell. So there is the oxygen and there is the glucose. So in the presence of oxygen, this glucose gets break down into carbon dioxide, which we called as the byproduct, or you can say that the waste product. And this carbon dioxide again travels with the same path, like the oxygen was traveling through the inhalation process, and carbon dioxide will travel to the same path, and it will get exhaled out. So that is the byproduct. And then water gets formed and ATP. Now what is this ATP? So this is the energy, student. Like ATP, if you remember that we have also discussed in the last session, that is the adenosine triphosphate. This is the full form of ATP. And see, student, this is the molecule where the energies are getting stored, and this energy is used up by us, like however we are doing our work, not only by us, by the plants and animals as well, because in their body also the energy is getting released, and when that energy is getting released, that energy is used up by us so that we can do our work. Exactly, like whatever we have to do, that is honest, student. Like every time we need to eat something, like when we don't eat properly, our body gets weak, and it's just that we feel like we started feeling very anxieties there, or not exactly anxiety, but yes, we started feeling very weak, very low. And it's just that when we eat good food, so our body maintain that particular environment, and that's how the proper energy get released. So this is the whole process of cellular respiration, student, that the cells are getting oxygen when the blood, like blood is in all over our body. Fine, and that blood contains oxygen, and the cells are absorbing that oxygen from the blood, and in that present the food molecules, that is the glucose only, because in the food what we eat, student, we eat carbohydrates, and glucose is a kind, is one of those carbohydrates, and it gets break down into carbon dioxide, water molecule. So sorry, students, I just got disconnected. I'm so sorry. So, yes, I was talking about cellular respiration. So, this is the whole process in which carbon dioxide we are getting as byproduct, and this carbon dioxide get exhaled out our body. And that's how the whole respiration process, you can say, completes at that point. Because respiration is not only about inhalation of oxygen, energy is getting released. Respiration completes at that point when oxygen is getting inhaled and the whole process is going on. And then after that, in the byproduct or in the waste product, you can say carbon dioxide is getting formed, and that carbon dioxide is exhaled out. So this is the whole process that we call as respiration. Fine, student. So that's how the respiration or the process which takes place in the cell, then that we call as the cellular respiration. Fine, and this cellular respiration is very important for us. Why? Because as I have told you, that very first thing, that the respiration is not only about the inhalation of oxygen, it is also about the exhalation of carbon dioxide. Exactly, student. And the second thing which you have noticed here, that there is the release of energy. That means there must be release of energy. If we are not getting energy, and if that energy is not getting formed, so we are not able to do our work. Fine. So that's how cellular respiration is important, and this is the whole process which we like you can see for the cellular respiration. Fine. So we have discussed with the topic. Now we are moving towards the another topic which we have to discuss for today's session. Okay, so it's like the disorders of respiration. See, students, what happened that, okay, now we have come to know that respiration, not only for human beings, but also for animals and plants, respiration is very important. Why? Because from the whole respiration process, breathing is there. And if the breathing process is not taking place, so we can't survive. Exactly, because we need oxygen. And why we need that oxygen? Because in the presence of oxygen, glucose get breaks down into the carbon dioxide, water molecule, and energy, and that energy is used up by us, by animal, and by plants as well, so that we can do our work. And that is how respiration is very important. But students, what happened now, it's a body. So like if we are doing something wrong with our body, so it obviously it will have some negative impact on us only. So these are the disorders, or you can say kind of diseases, which we face if we are not having proper respiration. Generally, student, if you have seen that and mainly people say that, okay, don't smoke, or don't smoke, because smoking is injurious to health. Have you heard this line, that smoking is injurious to health? Why? Because what happens, student, when we smoke, so that the smoke which we are getting from cigarettes or something like that, so you can see student, they cause some problem inside our body. And the problems which we are facing, that we called as the disorders of respiration. Fine. So these are some of the disorders of respiration. The very first thing is asthma. In asthma student, what the problem is that the like what the people generally face in asthma, that they have the shortness of breath. That means you can see here that it is the shortness of breath, that the breathing is not proper in asthma. Like what happened, like the people who are suffering with the problem of asthma, so what exactly they feel, that there is the shortness of breathing, that you can say that the whole breathing process, as we have studied that okay, in 1 minute normal people take 15 to 18 times of breathing. Fine. But it's just that in the case of the asthma people, that they don't get proper breathing process, they are having the shortness of breathing. And student, you can imagine that if person is facing that problem, that the breathing is not proper, so you can see that they start feeling suffocation. At one point they start feeling that okay, now they are going to die, because they are not getting proper amount of oxygen. That's why people who suffer with asthma, they have some kind of pump with them, because through that pump they get a proper supply of oxygen inside their body, so that they can respire properly. So that is the asthma student, where people are having the shortness of breathing and they just start feeling suffocation, because there is the no proper supply of oxygen inside their body. And that is called as the asthma. Now the second, if you see, that is the COPD, that is the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So in that student, what happened, that in this case people are facing long term breathing problem, that the breathing process is not we can say it's not proper. Because what we have seen in the respiration, that okay, respiration is a whole process, but breathing is a very important part of respiration. So in this case, what happened, that people face the very long term breathing problem. And because of that student, like if person is facing long term breathing problem, so you can imagine that how difficult for them to survive their life, if the proper amount of oxygen is not there. And if the proper amount of oxygen is not there, students, so proper energy is not getting released. And if proper energy is not getting released, you can see that they will start feeling very low, they can't do their work properly. So that is the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, in which people face long term breathing problems. Fine. Now if you see chronic bronchitis, so in that student, what happened, that in this case they face the inflammation of bronchi, inflammation of bronchi. Now student, just imagine, like bronchi is one of the organ, or you can say one of the path from where the oxygen and carbon dioxide travel. And that only path is getting inflamed. And how they are getting inflamed, when you like when people smoke at a very, like I can say that they are just used to that thing. So when they are just used to that smoking part, so because of that student, there is the inflammation of bronchi. And because of that student, when the bronchi are not performing their function properly, so the air which is which we are inhaling, or the carbon dioxide which has to be exhaled out, it is not getting properly transferred from bronchi to bronchioles. Because this is the whole process, and in the whole process, if any of one or like organ is not performing well, so definitely you are going to face the problem. So in chronic bronchitis students, what happened, that there's the inflammation of bronchi because of the smoke. Like the people generally who smoke on a very regular basis, so they start facing this problem. And that's how they just feel that they okay, they are having some kind of disease. And that's how they feel that okay, there is some negative impact on their body, because the respiration process is not proper. So that is the chronic bronchitis. Fine. Now in the emphysema, what happens students, so in this type of disease, or in this type of disorder, that people face shortness of breathing. That okay, shortness of breathing is there, but why they are getting that shortness of breathing? Because in that condition student, that the air sacs, that means alveoles, I have told you that alveoles are what they are the air sacs, because from their student the gases exchanged from blood to alveoles, and from alveoles to air blood. So that's how the whole body is getting oxygen. But in this type of disorder, or in this type of disease student, that the air sac of the human body is getting damaged. And when that is getting damaged, so there is the shortness of breathing. Fine. So that is the shortness of breathing. Okay, so like we have discussed about these four disorder. Now coming to the fifth type, that is the lung cancer. And see, student, lung cancer. You can imagine that if person is facing a problem of cancer and it is a lung cancer, so definitely there is a directly relation with the respiration. Exactly, because lung cancer, lungs used for the respiration process, and when that lung is suffering from some kind of problem, and that is the cancer only, so you can imagine that the person is facing a problem with respiration. They will be having shortness of breathing, and many problems are there. That means they are not getting proper respiration process. And if the respiration process is not proper, so you can imagine that whole body is not getting proper oxygen, and the whole process is getting disturbed because of that. And generally, student, generally, like I can't say like every time, but generally, lung cancer is not curable. Maybe yes, some techniques would be there or something, but yes, lung cancer, if it is going to be increased at extreme level, so at that point this lung cancer is not curable. And this type of lung cancer generally occurs when people have the smoking habit on a very regular basis. Fine, so that's why we always say this thing, that smoking is injurious to health, so don't smoke. So like it's like generally when we like any movie started or something like that, or any ad is there, so we see that point, that there is some points written there that smoking is injurious to health. And some of the places, if you have seen that in public places, they have just put cross over that cigarette sign, that smoking is not allowed in this area, or smoking is prohibited. Because student, that we know this thing, that smoking causing so much of problem, that you can see here, student, that even though chronic bronchitis, inflammation of bronchi, that means the very important part of the respiratory system is getting damaged. In emphysema also, that is the air sacs are getting damaged. In lungs cancer, you can see that whole lungs are getting suffered, so that completely having a negative impact of respiration. And when respiration is having negative, like is not getting good response, or we can say is not proper in our body, so our body is not performing well. Fine. Now the third, like if we see that as the pneumonia. Now in this case, student, what happened, that our lungs get filled with some kind of fluid. Okay, and it could be some white color kind of fluid, like very thick and very like you can say white or thick in nature. And because of that, student, the inhalation and the exhalation of carbon dioxide is not proper. Why, student? Because if you have remember that in the respiratory system, when we were discussing, we have seen that diaphragm is there. Okay, and when diaphragm contract or relax, so we can see that the like the size of the lungs get changed, like volume is getting changed and the pressure is getting changed, and that's how the inhalation and exhalation is taking place. But when that lungs are getting filled with some fluid or something like that, so you can see, student, that the difference in the volume or difference in the pressure will be there. And when it is there, when this problem is there, so the inhalation and exhalation of oxygen, carbon dioxide will get difficult. So that is the problem which we face in pneumonia. Now with the very last part, that is the pleural effusion. So in that condition, what happens, student, that the lungs get filled with water, like filled with water, filled with water. So that's the problem, students, that you can see that all of are having the same, like they are having the negative impact only on like respiration, that the respiration is not proper, breathing is not proper. But it's just that, student, depending upon which part of the respiratory system is getting affected, so these are the type of disorders. Fine. So one of those is the pleural effusion, in which the like you can say that some fluid get filled between the layer, like you can say between the lungs and the outer layer or the chest cavity. So that's a, student, if the fluid is there, and that like generally it is because of the water. So again, student, there is the problem again in the expansion or in the contraction of the lungs, or you can see in the exchange of gas. So again, there is the shortness of breathing in this case. So that's a, student, you can see here that all of these disorderness which we are facing is just because of the improper breathing, that when the breathing is not proper, so the respiration process is not proper. So the breathing is a very important part of our respiration process, and the breathing must be proper. Like you can say that the exchange or the inhalation and the exhalation of oxygen, carbon dioxide must be proper. And if it is not proper because of the not well functioning of any of your body part, that means you are making some mistake. Generally it's not like that, that it's not only our fault at every point. But yes, if you know this thing, that yes, smoking causes a many problem for the respiration process, for breathing process, so we shouldn't do that. Exactly. Well, so we can see here that many of the reasons directly relates with the smoking, because when there is impurities are present present in our air. Fine. So if you have also noticed this thing, when the pollution is more in our atmosphere, so we used to have mask on our mouth or on our nose so that the impurities get filtered out. But when we are just inhaling that impurities, when we are just inhaling that polluted air, so that the pollution is also getting entered in our body, and when that is getting entered in our body, so you can see, student, that from alveoli that impurity is also getting transformed through the bloods, and blood transferring that impurities to the whole body part. And you can see when the impurities are present in our body, so we have problems. So that's how we can see that the pollution of air has to be reduced, because if the air is getting polluted, so we can inhale all of the impurities, and that's how the impurities are getting to the very extent in our inside our body, and we will be facing problems related to the respiration only. So that's how, student, these are the disorders of the respiration. That means the like a kind of diseases, or these diseases all obviously having a negative impact on our respiratory system, and that's how the respiration function will not be proper, and we will be facing in getting proper amount of energy so that we can do our work. So we should think about it, and we should keep our body fit, and we should eat good food so that like we can see that the more amount of energy get released. Fine. So we have discussed about the disorders of respiration as well. Fine. So these are the two topics which we have to discuss today. Now, coming to the question. So, question you can see here, kind of interesting one, that in the following figure of respiratory system or organs labeled by one and two are respectively. Like this is one and this is two, and we have to tell that what are these two organs of the respiratory system. And we have already discussed about the respiratory system. So I hope now we are able to answer this question exactly. So this is the first thing, and this is what, student, at this point. So if we see, this is the nasal cavity. After the nasal cavity, it is the pharynx, and then if you notice here, it is the windpipe. And what's the another name of windpipe if we say? So it is the trachea. So the first is trachea. Now from the trachea, it is growing to bronchi to bronchioles, and this second part is just pointing towards the lungs. So the second is lungs. So second is we can see that it is pointed to the lungs. So that is the first is windpipe, or we can say trachea, and then second is lungs. So according to that, if we see, it is one and it is two. So that means option A is the correct answer. Fine. Now question is here, breathing rate in human beings in normal condition is, in normal condition, not like generally, if you have noticed, student, and like when we play or when we do some heavy exercise or heavy work, so we start having some heavy breathe, like heavy breathing, that if you have noticed that thing, so at that point that the breathing rate get decreased. But when we are in the normal condition, like right now I'm teaching you, so I'm in a very normal condition, I'm not doing very heavy exercise, but it's just that teaching is a very heavy exercise if I say. So it is about 15 to 18 times in a minute. Now the third question says that yeast are used in, like where we use that yeast. If you remember, student, we have already discussed this question maybe in our first or second session. So yeast are used in the wine and beer industries. Why, student? Because these yeast will produce alcohol in its respiration process, and alcohol is important for wine and beer industry, obviously. So student, option A is the correct answer for this question. So with that, student, oh, actually, sorry, I'm very sorry. I thought maybe we are just having three questions, but we are having one more here. So don't worry. After heavy exercise, due to the accumulation of which substance we get muscle cramps, like which the substance is getting accumulated, so that we are having muscle cramps. So it is because of the lactic acid, student. Why it is formed? Because, student, when we are doing heavy exercise, so the proper supply of oxygen is not there, and when there is no proper supply of oxygen, that respiration results into the type of anaerobic respiration. And we have discussed that when the anaerobic respiration is there, so we don't get we don't get carbon dioxide or water molecule at that point, we get lactic acid form. So because of the accumulation of lactic acid, if we get some kind of muscle cramp. So that's how option D is the correct answer. Fine. Okay, so now finally, with that, we have completed the topics and we have completed the questions as well. Now, student, it's just that your chapter has been completed. Now, what you can do, you can check there, 4 videos are there for this chapter, and you can revise all these videos and just look at the videos very carefully because all of the information relates with you, not only with you, it's like with people, animals and plants as well. So just look at the videos carefully, clear your all doubts, and if you have any doubt, any question, you can post your question on public or private forum of askIITians, and you will be getting answer from expert side. And with that, we have completed the chapter. uh, Revise it very well and just give your best. Fine. So in the very last, thank you so much for watching the video and keep learning from askIITians. Thank you.